Now, the jury might still be out on Omar because a lot of people like some of the things that he does and they don't like some of the things that he does. But for the most part, I think we would all have to agree Omar Khan's done a pretty good job. Now, here's the kicker. He took over in 2022, but it was after the draft, which to me was insane. I'll just put it plain out there. That was insane. You knew Kevin Colbert was retiring. Why would you then allow him to have one final draft? That didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, he's retiring after the draft. I'm like, what? Why? Why not just right now and we move on? But they let him have it. So the 2023 draft was actually his first draft as a general manager. Now, his first pick was Broderick. We all thought at the time it was an outstanding move. He moved up from 17 to 14, traded with the New England Patriots, drafted Broderick Jones. Well, Broderick's got to do his thing because Broderick, first year, finally gets into the game, plays right tackle, does a decent job. Not phenomenal, but a decent job. Last year, I think we all know, horrific. Terrible job. Now he's back in the position that he was drafted to play. Looks good, saying all the right things, appears to be doing all the right things. Like I mentioned, said he wanted to get slimmer. So if he needed to gain weight, it's easier to put on the weight than to come in heavy and take it off. Again, a sign of maturity, a sign that he's becoming a professional. It's all you can ask for these guys in the offseason. I love it. But that's a big pick for him. But you think about the 2023 draft, I mean, not basically, he was given, Omar Khan was given an A plus universally by everybody for this draft. You get Broderick Jones, JPJ, we'll talk about that later, Keanu Benton, Darnell Washington, Nick Herbig, Corey Trice Jr., and Spencer Anderson. Of those guys, everybody has gotten major minutes, except for maybe Spencer Anderson. They put him out there for a couple of games last year when James Washington got hurt or when Isaac Siamalu was out early and he couldn't really fit the bill. Corey Trice Jr. can't stay healthy. Didn't look good in that Bengals game last year when he was healthy. I blame a lot of that on scheme because they put Corey Trice, hey, just cover Jamar Chase one-on-one. Nobody does that. But yet they wanted this guy who's been hurt his first 2 years in the league, 7th round pick. You go out there and cover Jamar Chase one-on-one. Wasn't the best game plan per se. But everybody in that draft has pretty much been getting big-time minutes. And it'll be a big year to see those guys develop as far as how good a couple years later that draft is. Now, you move on to 2024. I'm sorry, people. This draft, to me, is better than the 2023 one because you look at Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Roman Wilson, Peyton Wilson, Mason McCormick, Logan Lee, and Ryan Watts. Of those picks, you've got 5 potential starters in Fautanu, Frazier, Wilson, and McCormick. Now, I say Roman Wilson, potential starter. 4 of them we damn sure know are going to start. Though, and barring injury, let's knock on wood, we know we got 4 starters out of that. Roman Wilson might be the 5th starter out of that draft. I'm sorry. In what world, if your top 5 draft picks, are starting in their second year? That's pretty good. And they're pretty good players. So if they play well, yeah, that's a pretty good draft. Now, Logan Lee was part of that draft. We'll see if he makes the roster this year. He had a calf injury and, practice squatted up most last year. And then my man, Ryan Watts, man, I feel so bad he had to retire, injury retirement. I was so high on him last year, and he was going to make the team. He was going to be a piece and got hurt in that last preseason game. It was that bad he had to retire. So, but that draft, it looks pretty good right now. So you look at those 2 drafts from 2023 and 2024. I mean, Omar Khan, that looks pretty good, people. And you take those guys, you count Broderick Jones, JPJ, Keanu Benton. Those are 3 starters in that draft. Now, Darnell Washington, He's not the starter. Herbig or Trice or Anderson, those guys are not the starter. You got three, then you throw four on top of that. So that's seven. And maybe Roman Wilson. That's eight. Eight guys in two drafts are starting after 3 years. And yeah, that's exactly what you're wanting, especially in a team that's technically rebuilding, you know. And that's the thing that I like about it. But let's go to the 2025 draft before we dig too much into that. Derek Harmon, traded for DK Metcalf, Caleb Johnson, Jack Sawyer, Y.A. Black, Will Howard, Jacob Bruner, excuse me, and Dante Kent. So basically, what they did is that Omar Kahn decided how we're going to rebuild the Pittsburgh Steelers. Him and Andy Waddle, they've decided that they are going to rebuild the lines. 2023, offensive line. Wasn't enough. They went back in and said 2024, we're going to dig in even deeper on this offensive line. Okay, I can live with it. And they got 4 starters out of that. 4 starters in those last 2 drafts. So the Steelers are saying that's how you rebuild a football team. You got to go with your big people. They've done it. Now on defense, they went heavy on the defensive line this year. You know, so when you're rebuilding your team, you've got to hit. Now, do all these things have to hit? You know, if the O-line this year comes out and falls flat on its face, then you're going to be looking at Omar Kahn like, hold on, brother, what's going on here? You know, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I really don't. I really don't. I think that they've figured some things out with those guys, which is good because you need to. You need to. And the D line again, you're building the team the right way from the inside out. The inside out. That's what the good teams do. The Eagles did that. The Chiefs did that. That's what you do. Now, those teams also had a quarterback. And again, it's easier to build from the inside out when you already have the quarterback. The Steelers don't have that. And that's been kind of the problem. People are looking at Will Howard to be the savior and talking about, all his intangibles and this and that. And I keep reminding people he was a 6th-round draft pick in a bad quarterback draft. Just keep that in mind before we make Will Howard out to be the hero of the Pittsburgh Steelers or the savior of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like him. I think he can be a good backup. If he proves me wrong and he's an outstanding starter for the next decade, great. But I want to temper everybody's expectations with that is, again, he was a 6th-round draft pick in a bad quarterback draft. So hopefully he can outlive some of he can play better than where he was drafted. And he can live up to a lot of people's expectations. I hope he does. I really do. I want him to be well. You know me. Anybody you play for the Steelers, I want you to play well. Period. End of story. But that's where Omar Kahn is. Now, he's also done some wheeling and dealing. And the one thing, I always say this, is that it's fine if you make a mistake, but don't live in the mistake. And he decided early on that Baby Hands was not the guy. And he said, look, first off, I didn't draft him, so he ain't my draft pick. And second of all, he doesn't want to compete for a job. We brought in Russell Wilson. He's like, I got to get out of here. Like, okay. And that's coming off the heels of the reports of him not wanting to be the emergency quarterback one week, didn't want to be the backup quarterback one week. Yeah, we don't need that, So Omar Khan's like, look, great. You don't want to be here. We will get you out of here. Let's get out. And it's not that Baby Hands was blowing our socks off with his play anyway. So there's that. So he fleeced. I remember earlier I talked to you about JPJ. Just absolutely fleeced the Chicago Bears for the 36th pick for Chase Claypool. Now, I know that there's a lot of guys out there that like Chase Claypool, said, hey, look at his rookie year and how good he was. Okay. I get all of that. Oh, the Steelers, they ruined him. Okay. Did the Bears ruin him too? Did the Dolphins? Did the Bills? It wasn't just the Steelers. I know that when we start talking bad about certain people or things, we want to always blame the Steelers, always blame Mike Tomlin. It's their fault. Their system, well, three other organizations couldn't use him either. Or better yet, 32 other organizations couldn't use him because he's playing Canadian Football League right now. And he's 26 and he isn't hurt. So think about that before we start bad mouthing the Steelers on what they did. This is a man that played in four organizations. He's no longer in the National Football League, and he's 26 years old, and he doesn't have some devastating knee injury or anything like that. Just not good enough. It's okay. Good job, Omar Kahn. Excuse me. He also brought in DK Metcalf this year for a second round pick. A lot of people don't like the Steelers using draft capital to get players, but I mean, DK's 27. He's really, really good. I'm not saying he's a top 5 receiver, not even a top 10 receiver, but he's top 15 for sure. So for the Steelers to be able to get him for a second round pick, that's a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, are you going to draft the guy that's 27 or you're whatever? Are you going to just draft the guy that's going to be a top 15 receiver into the league right now? You aren't going to do that. So yeah, with the second round pick, come on, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. To have good players on your team, sometimes you have to sacrifice some stuff. A second round pick for a top 15 receiver, that's worth it. That's worth it. So to me, that was a great job. 4 years, $132 million. There's even an out after year 2 if things aren't working out. 60 million guaranteed. If it doesn't work out, the Steelers can get out. So we'll see. But I think it will work out. But I love the fact that he said, we got to get somebody in here, and they went and got him. Love that fact. So now the one thing that this is still a hot button that he did, he traded George Pickens. And a lot of people don't like the fact that he traded George Pickens. I am still have mixed emotions about it because I would have loved to see DK and George play, but it doesn't sound like the locker room was willing to do that. Now, there's some truth to, hey guys, you ain't got to like the guy, but he's ultra talented and he can help us win on Sundays. But it sounds like that was getting in the way. And then we saw the effort stuff with Pickens. We saw it, not just on blocking, it was on routes, right? I mean, what receiver runs half-ass routes? I never even heard of that before. I've heard him dogging it on run plays. Okay, no big deal. But dogging it on routes, on passing plays, never heard a receiver do that before. Never heard that. Either way, the bottom line is the locker room, it seems like the prominent people in the locker room didn't want him in there anymore, and he was no longer in there. Still controversial. That might come back to bite us. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But he made the move for what he thought was best. So he's got to live with that. We'll see how that works out for the Steelers. So he's also gathered a ton of picks. So, we got 12 picks for next year. The draft is in Pittsburgh. So we can wheel and deal and slice and dice and do some of the things that we need to do. Maybe even use some of those picks to get a player. Hey, the Steelers are 8-2 at some point in the season or 7-2. We need to go get a guy. Whatever the case may be. They've got options. They've got things that they can do. So I like where the Pittsburgh Steelers sit as an organization. I like where Omar Kahn has put the Steelers as an organization. I like what he's done so far, ladies and gentlemen. I do. I'm a believer. People call him the con man. Yeah, okay. I like it. Now, again, these things have to play out. We talked about the offensive line. It's got to hit. The D line, it's got to hit. He's got to find a second wide receiver, a true number 2, unless it's Roman Wilson. Who knows? But we got to figure those things out. There's still some ifs, but as it sits today, I like what Omar Khan's done. But do you like what Omar Kahn has done? Let's get to the poll question and find out, people. So the poll. How would you rate Omar Khan's performance as the Steelers general manager so far? A, excellent. He's making all the right moves. B, good. There are some hits and misses. C, average, still too early to judge. Or D, poor. I'm not impressed with his decisions. That one might be a little harsh. You got to be impressed with some of them, don't you? So that one might be a little difficult. But as far as that is concerned, that's where I am with the poll question. I like A, B, C, or D. I got my favorite. I'll let you guys decide. Remember to put a number 4 in front of the answer so we know exactly what poll question is popping up. So appreciate that. Now look, people, pivotal year, pivotal time for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We still don't know who the damn quarterback's going to be for our team yet. And here it is, May 30th, and we don't know. We talked earlier about whose fault it is. You know, a lot of Steeler fans, just fans in general, we like to place blame because we want to know if it doesn't work out, we want to know who to be mad at. That goes for anything basically in life, not just our favorite football team here. But there's got to be some accountability. You know, if we as fans are going to spend our hard-earned dollars, we need to know what the hell's going on and who has to be held accountable for it. And quite frankly, I think it's ridiculous that the Pittsburgh Steelers don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be at this point. Maybe they do know, and they're just not telling us. And that could be the case. A lot of people, a lot of you guys have said that all along, that they know who the quarterback is. They just aren't telling us. And that's fine. That's fine. But at some point, don't the fans, don't they deserve to know? Don't we deserve, again, it's our hard earned dollars that are out there that we spend to support the team, you know? So don't we deserve something? I'm not saying we have to be in the inner workings, but May 30th and we don't know the starter? I don't know. That's just me. You know, I might be being selfish. I probably am. But the way that I look at it, I just think the Pittsburgh Steelers, um, it's just a pivotal time right now. It's just a really pivotal time. So hopefully they can get it all figured out here in the next few days. We got OTAs, the second of 3 OTAs coming up next week. By all intents and purposes, it was a good week this week. DK didn't show up to OTAs. I want to see DK at the next one. I want to see him at the next one. You know, there's no reason for him not to be. I want to see him at the next one. Haven't played on this in this organization with these teammates, this offense. Time to get in there and get some practice time. I know it's not mandatory, but I want to see him in there. If 36-year-old Cam Hayward can show up, 34-year-old Darius Slay, they can show up, you can show up too. That's it. So appreciate all you guys, man. Thank you for everything that you do for this channel, man, and supporting it. That's all I got for you today. So other than that, remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments section like you guys always do, and hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Steelers Almighty content comes out. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, and aloha.